Welcome to Transamerica, where together we're transforming tomorrow.
Your husband put this all together when Emma was born.
He was an amazing man.
This is for you. It's all paid off.
And this is for Emma.
So where do you think she'll go?
Anywhere she wants.
We're making people a more secure tomorrow. What can we make with you? Transamerica. Transform tomorrow.
Now, Ms. Rand.
Thank you, Pastor Kofer, for inviting me to spend this time with you discussing a very important need that every one of us has. And we are excited about just being able to get the word out to our people about this responsibility that we all have.
All right. Ms. Rand, she's East Texan by birth. She was born in the rural community of Smithland, which is located 18 miles out of Jefferson. She was valedictorian of her class and attended college in Denton at the North Texas State University. And she's a very impressive woman. She's a woman that believes that God has assigned her to this task of bringing information and knowledge to people about life insurance. And so she has a God-given passion for this. And I often say that two things you shouldn't leave earth without, and that is, number one, salvation. You must get your soul saved. And number two, please don't leave here also without getting some kind of life or pre-need burial insurance. So at this time, Ms. Rand, I want to thank you again. I want you to just tell us a little bit about the importance of pre-need and burial insurance. Why it's so important that we take care of this matter.
Well, it's important, Pastor Kofer, because first of all, we're going to die. We need to get used to that idea. We're going to die. And when death occurs, we're going to have to call a funeral home. And we're going to have to go through that process of disposal of the remains. And as you said, hopefully, first of all, that the salvation is in order first.
Yeah.
And then the family needs to be prepared to pay for those final expenses at that time, which can be very costly. Many people today in our families are not as prepared as I would want them to be, and I'm learning that the opportunity has always been here for us to be prepared, but we've kind of pushed it off to the side. We've said, let it wait till later. I'll take care of that when it's time, or just any excuse. But we go on and we plan for everything else. We plan birthday parties, we plan weddings, we plan just baby showers, all of that. But we don't want to plan for dying.
I'd like you to tell the audience, what caused you, what prompted you to get into selling life insurance or,
Burial insurance.
burial insurance and all of this. What got you into this?
Thank you for asking me that, because as a child, growing up, I used to watch that insurance man come by my mama's house every month. And my daddy had these deer horns that he used for hanging hats and umbrellas and so forth. And of course, that brown envelope was hanging on those deer horns. And this insurance man was the only one that my mom would allow to touch that envelope. And I wondered about that. And I was always curious, but Mom just took care of it every month. Daddy worked and Mom stayed at home and took care of us until my baby sister started school. And then once she started school, my mom went on out to work and continued to work together with my dad to help take care of 8 children. And we were poor, but Dad and Mom knew that we needed certain things in our family. And one of those was that just in case one of us died, that we needed to be buried, and they knew that we needed burial insurance. So that's what they were taught to have, is burial insurance, burial, just to bury us. And that was about the amount of coverage that was provided. Only enough to bury, not enough to leave something on top of the ground for the survivors. We weren't given that information, only that we needed to have money to be put in the ground, into the ground. And so as a result of that, my interest was piqued at that time, and I couldn't have been more than 5 years old when this was going on in my life. And I grew up and attended high school, and then went on to college at North Texas State University, NTSU at that time, now UNT. I was a business administration major, and believe it or not, the most interesting course in business administration was insurance. I really loved my insurance class, made an A in it too. And but I had no idea, even then, that this is what God and where God was leading me. It didn't happen, and that was back in the 60s when I was at North Texas State. And life went on. I had a few jobs. I worked with Ernst & Ernst, which was one of the big 8 CPA firms at the time in the U.S. I worked with Xerox Corporation, where I got into the sales part of my major. And I actually sold copiers for Xerox and telecopiers, as well as word processors. And I got into the word processors where I taught classes and supported the sales teams. And but again, somewhere in the back of my head, there was always insurance. We had a very good friend who at that time worked for a big company called New York Life. And he had come over and introduced us to really good insurance, something that I hadn't heard about as a child growing up. It was called life insurance. It wasn't just called burial insurance. But at the same time, life insurance buries us.
Yeah.
And so we took advantage of buying a life insurance plan with New York Life at that time, and it was a very good plan. We felt like it, and something that we hadn't been accustomed to. And from there, life continued on, and I ended up with a back injury. And at the same time, I was introduced almost simultaneously to insurance, and decided I think I want to be a part-time agent. So I went ahead and took the insurance exam, and I did pass it on my first time taking it, which was a real good thing and exciting thing for me to do. And I then began working with trying to meet people and introduce them to a better insurance plan, because there were better out there. And I was working with some of the companies that offered much, much better products than had been brought to our families. So it was really exciting for me, and I began to just feel like this is the niche. This is where the Lord is placing me. And I just, honestly, the excitement and the fulfillment that I received just anytime that I was able to place someone in a good policy with a good company, it really made me feel good about the fact that I was doing something good for my people. And I know that we needed that. We had not been offered it, which is something I hate to think about, but we just weren't offered the better products back earlier in our lives. All we had was burial. Now we have life insurance, and life insurance is burial insurance as well. And so from there, it has evolved. For now, 25 years, I've been a licensed agent here in the state of Texas, and I've met a lot of people, and I've had to see a lot of situations where people who have died and the family had no insurance to bury their loved ones, and they have had to, in essence, pass the hat, if you will, or take up collections, or do all kinds of things, have fish dinners or whatever, some way to try to accumulate enough money to bury their loved ones, because some had just not taken that responsibility and took care of what was the real need there, and that was to have something that was going to bury them when death occurred.
Well, we're gonna take a commercial break at this time, but we will be back, so you want to stay tuned because we have some more great important information we need to share with you.
Meet Larry. Larry wants to take his wife on a honeymoon because they've never been. He doesn't have the extra income to take vacations. His wife shops online all day and came across Paycation Travel, which allows you to earn 75% commission in cash rebates every time you book reservations online or refer others to book online through your website. Not points, but cash rebates, 75% commission. They also allow you to earn 100% check match from the earnings of others that you refer to booking. Now Larry has enough to take his wife on her honeymoon, and it's not a vacation, but it's a paycation.
Welcome back to Empower Now. I'm your host, Pastor Stanley Cofer, and we're so happy to have Miss Alva in the studio with us. And I hope that those of you that are listening to this broadcast on today, that you really take time to consider about placing yourself and your family members into a good insurance policy, which is so very important. So, Ms. Alva, some people may not understand.
To our families through burial insurance, as we were taught to call it, because that's what we thought that we needed, was just burial insurance. Consequently, that burial insurance plan gets used up and nothing was left for those survivors. And that's where our families have, I think, been not given the best situation for our lives. Now, pre-arranging is a new term to many families today, because we've only talked about burial and life, and of course you mentioned whole life and term life and universal life, and I'll just quickly just kind of go over those. Whole life means, yes, you're going to pay for this policy for you the rest of your life. Right now, the insurance companies, the good companies, consider life being up to an age 121. Many companies, especially those that we might see advertised, may stop at 85, but we are living longer now, and so we need policies that are going to last a lot longer than age 85. So that's whole life insurance. Now, term life insurance, I do like to provide term life insurance, but for the younger families with children. They're buying a home, they got children that they're raising, and they're trying to get them up to be adults, and that is where term life fits in real well, because it can protect the lives of the family during those growing up years when it's really important to have something left. In the event the husband or the wife passed on, then something is left there for them to survive on. And then universal life is kind of a combination of term and whole life insurance. Whole life has cash value, universal life has cash value. But I like for my people to know that cash value on insurance is something that we want to leave in our policies. We've not been explained to how the cash value should work. We've been told that that is money that we can just pull out of insurance policies. You can do that. However, you have to pay it back. because it's a loan. It's a loan from your face amount of your insurance policy. And if you don't pay that loan back, then that loan grows, and over time, that could eat up the face amount of your insurance policy. And you don't find this out until you're at the funeral home with your loved one has passed on, and now you need that insurance to take care of that funeral. And the insurance company is going to recover their loan and all the interest that has not been paid back during the course of that period of time that that loan has been out there. So we need to understand completely what taking money out of an insurance policy means, because that has been devastating to families. And I've seen it happen too many times at the funeral home when they need that policy and they find out that they're not getting all the money back. So whole life is what we really need for taking care of the funeral at the time that funerals occur. But we've got pre-need now, which is basically like a whole life, can be a whole life paid up policy that we write up that covers the cost of a funeral service. I'm with the Harmon Funeral Home here in Tyler most of the time, working with families who come in to make preparations for burying the loved one. And when that time comes, it's important to have the monies available to pay for that funeral service. A funeral service starts from the moment that you call the funeral home to, and I always say, until you put a marker on the grave. We sometimes don't remember that that marker on that grave is very important if we're going to have a burial. Some are choosing cremation now, and that is an option that is available to families. But burial is what we have been accustomed to. And so burial starts with the first call, and that's when the funeral home is called to pick up the remains from where death has occurred. And then if we're going to have a funeral and the casket's going to be open for viewing our loved ones, and that loved one has to be embalmed. And there's a mortician involved there. That's a special person that has a license, who's qualified and who has to keep up their licensing to do mortician work. And one mortician may work through several funeral homes, because it's not a lot of people who want to do this, but someone has to do it. Yeah, that's right. So after the mortician has embalmed, then the remains has to be dressed and laid in a casket. And during this period of time, of course, the family is dealing with having to prepare for that day when the actual funeral takes place. And so now that the funeral home is prepared the loved one, and you've gone in and reviewed your loved one and made sure that they're prepared the way that you want them to be.
So how much is the average funeral? How much does the average funeral cost these days?
In today's figures, an average funeral is going to run somewhere upwards of $5,000. And that's from the time of pickup to burial at the cemetery, opening and closing the grave, as well as putting the marker on that grave. And $5,000 is on the low end now.
Yeah.
Back in the day, as I was growing up, a funeral cost maybe $800 or $1,000, and that was pretty much no more.
No more. Those days are over with.
Absolutely. So that's why it's so important to have an insurance policy or a pre-arrangement where the expenses can be covered, because the funeral homes are not in a position to take credit. Our loved ones need to be responsible for paying those premiums for those burial or life insurance policies, and so that money is available for the family to use to pay the funeral home, because the funeral home is a licensed facility. It has to be licensed to sit there as a funeral home.
Yeah.
The funeral directors have
Yeah.
to be licensed.
Yeah.
Those that work with the remains all have to be trained.
Yeah.
And know how to prepare
Yeah.
a deceased person. And
It costs.
It costs money to do
everything
that.
costs.
You have people cost
Yeah.
and equipment cost.
It costs to come in this world, and it costs to go out.
Totally.
You know, I wish we had a lot more time to discuss this, but this is what we're gonna do. Miss Alva Rand, the phone number is on the bottom of the screen. She does this full time. You know, I've been a licensed agent for 14 years, but I still work on a full-time job. But Miss Alva, she works full-time. This all she does is see families on a daily basis. So I want to strongly encourage you to please give her a call, because you know, one of the most devastating thing that can happen, you know, it's already rough when a family member dies, but man, you know, for them to have to be thinking about you know, the financial consequences of, you know, that is going to take place on tomorrow and all of that, that's just too much stress. And so when I first got into the insurance business, even before I even started selling insurance, it just so like you, Miss Alva, it was just something I believe God put in my heart to do. But it was always important, because I seen my parents get life insurance policies. So when I got married, I knew that I needed to leave something for my wife, and vice versa, if she'd go before me, that we would protect our income. Mm-hmm. So when I was told that to look at insurance as income protection, you know, that really hit home for me, because as they explained to me, you protecting your income. You rent money until you get your own money. Right now, you have a mortgage. You have you want to put your kids in college. You know, you want to do these things. But if you pass, you know, that income that was coming in that house is gone now. But if you can rent somebody else's money, which is from a major company, then you will have that money in place if something happened to you, and vice versa with your wife. So we want to encourage those of you that are watching this broadcast, you know, just like we said, with salvation of your soul, that's something you don't need to put off. You don't need Jesus. The Word of God says, the day that you hear His voice, harden not your heart. It's appointed once for man to die, you know. So we know that when we enter into this world, we enter through the womb of our mother. But we have no clue how we're going to leave this place. It can be through a car wreck. It can be through a counselor. It can be whatever. We don't know, but we must be ready. You know, so we need to prepare ourselves to be ready spiritually and physically, that when we pass this life, that our family, because Scripture also says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children. And insurance is a tax-free, tax-deferred. Can you explain that real quickly before we run out of time? How the insurance is tax-deferred. A lot of people really don't understand what that means. So will you explain that?
Actually, Pastor Cole, for right now, as I understand it, insurance and death proceeds or death benefits, and that's when the insurance policy pays off after the loved one has died. That money is not taxed.
Yeah.
It's passed on to your loved ones tax-free. So that's what life insurance really means. You're leaving something there for the lives of those that are left. And yes, you don't have to pay taxes on that money now. I hope that never changes.
Yeah, me too. Hope that never changes. So that's a good way to leave wealth to your family. Now, I wish we had more time, but Ms. Alva would be happy to receive a phone call from you, and she can come visit you in your home, sit down with you or your family, or you can come over to Harmon. Whichever way you can set that out, set that up, do it. Call her number. It's here on the bottom of the screen. Miss Alva Rand. And once again, just want to thank you for taking out the time of your busy schedule, and so we can talk to the community about the importance of getting life insurance policies in place. So I want to thank you once again, and God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor Coffer. It's been a pleasure.
I'm getting worried about the mortgage contract.
Don't worry, Legal Shield's on it.
Hey guys, found a few mistakes in your loan. You'll definitely save some money.
Wow.
Hey, no sweat.
Hey, Mom, whatever happened with that awful car warranty thing?
Oh, that? I have Legal Shield.
Hey Maria, the dealership agreed to cover the repairs.
Really?
Let's just say they got the picture.
Talk to a top-quality law firm in your state for less than $20 a month. Legal Shield. Worry less and live more.